I chased after John for 7 years, doing every outrageous, shameless thing imaginable for him. Later, after my father died and my mother went mad, I fell straight from the clouds into the mud. I no longer dared to laugh loudly or love recklessly. On the day John got engaged to the woman he loved, everyone was on edge, guarding against me showing up to make a scene. But all the way until the rings were exchanged, I never appeared. He was restless, glancing outside again and again. What he didn't know was that the day before his engagement, I grabbed the man I had once cruelly humiliated and rejected. With a trembling voice, I begged him. I can't come up with 100,000 yuan to compensate you, Berlin. Berlin's brows and eyes were the same as ever. He looked at me deeply and said, "Can't pay it? Then, work it off with your body." Chapter 01. The day I took my mother and moved out of the villa district, many people from my former social circle came just to watch me become a joke. There wasn't much luggage, but even so, we couldn't carry it all by hand. In the end, Aunt Cheen, the family's former housekeeper, couldn't bear to watch anymore. She had her husband borrow a 3-wheeled cart, and only then was the situation resolved. I settled my mother first, carefully wrapping her up in a blanket. Only then did I squeeze onto the cart myself, wedged into the tiny gap between the luggage and the dog cage. The moment the cart started moving, it was surrounded by several luxury cars. "So, Carmen, you've really fallen this far. Look at Miss Carmen now, like a stray dog with nowhere to go. Where are you moving to? The #1 courtyard villa? Don't be ridiculous. That's John and Sister Gardenia's marital home. Does she really think Carmen deserves to live there?" Curled up in that narrow space, I listened to the piercing laughter. Yet I acted as if I hadn't heard a thing, eyes lowered, face blank. Chapter 02. In the month since our family went bankrupt and my father jumped to his death, I had already tasted every shade of human coldness. The once proud young heiress was nothing more than a useless decorative shell. Without my family and my father, my backbone was easily shattered piece by piece. Mockery and sarcasm were nothing. What truly made me sick was seeing uncles who had once been close to us tear off their hypocritical masks, revealing their lecherous, disgusting faces. And now, the person I feared most was John. Back then, relying on my status as a rich girl, I forced him to be with me. The woman he loved had no choice but to leave the country. He despised me deeply, and hated me even more. And, as always, what I feared most came true. The laughter abruptly stopped. Trembling, I looked up, and saw John. Gardenia stood beside him. He had an arm around her, his movements gentle and affectionate. But when he looked at me, his eyes were filled only with icy revulsion. Chapter 03. I shrank into the narrow gap, forcing myself to meet his gaze calmly. But behind my back, my hands were clenched so tightly that my palms were bleeding. 10 days ago, I was beaten by a man who wanted to sleep with me. First came 7 or 8 slaps. My face swelled, and one of my teeth was knocked loose. Then he used broken glass to slash my chest. Would John hit me too? Would he viciously slap me a few times, or slash my face to vent all the resentment he'd built up over the years? Carmen. He called my name indifferently. As you can see, Gardenia is back. If you dare keep harassing me or hurt her again. At that, he suddenly stepped forward. I screamed in terror and covered my face tightly. John, I really won't anymore. I'll never cling to you again, I swear, I promise. I'll stay far, far away from all of you. Please don't hit me. I'm begging you, don't hit me. Perhaps my reaction was too unexpected. John's expression shifted, his brows knitting tightly. Carmen. My face was deathly pale. John, I already told you the day my dad died. We broke up. I will never cling to you again. There was a slight softening in his expression. Chapter 04. But suddenly, someone in the crowd sneered. What an actress. Damn it, back when she was a rich girl, she was arrogant as hell. Now that she's bankrupt, she immediately starts playing the fragile, innocent victim. She really knows how to switch faces when it suits her. John, don't believe her bullshit. Don't soften your heart. Exactly. How many times has she lied to you over the years? If it weren't for her lies, Sister Gardenia wouldn't have had that accident 3 years ago. Stop talking. Gardenia's face went pale as she covered her mouth and began to cry weakly. John hurriedly pulled her into his arms, his voice full of concern. Don't cry, Gardenia. It's all in the past. But I'm scared, John. I'm scared the same thing will happen again. Gardenia looked at me timidly, then quickly withdrew her gaze. John held her protectively in his arms, his eyes turning icy when they fell on me. Carmen. Remember what you said. If you dare play any more tricks or schemes, I will never let you, or anyone in your family who's still alive, off the hook. Chapter 05. The spring rain had gone on for half a month without stopping. The rundown house we rented started leaking. My mother suddenly began crying and throwing things, lashing out in a fit. I had just gotten back from a part-time job and was too exhausted. I failed to stop her. She ran out into the rain. By the time I found her, she had already caused a disaster, smashing someone else's car. She screamed hoarsely. Carmen, this is your father's car. Your father is a bastard, he abandoned us. His car is carrying another woman. As she screamed, she suddenly broke down like a child, sobbing uncontrollably. She lay on the ground crying, and I stood in the rain crying with her. My father had spoiled her all his life, and spoiled me for 23 years. But now, he had abandoned us both. The car's front door and windshield were smashed. The compensation would be at least 100,000 yuan. I couldn't pay it. The driver's expression gradually darkened. Miss? At that moment, the rear window of the car slowly rolled down. Flickering street lights. Spring rain as fine as strands of hair. In the distance, high-rises steeped in decadent luxury. Right in front of us, a slum flooded with filthy water. A luxury car worth millions lay quietly here, slicing this fractured world in two. A once proud young heiress now stood in the rain, ragged and miserable. A once poor, awkward boy had now risen spectacularly. When Berlin looked at me, I didn't even recognize him at first. Soaked hair clung to my deathly pale face. My rain-soaked lips, bleached white, could only tremble out broken words. Sir, could I beg you to give me some time? When I save up the money, I'll definitely pay you back. How long is some time? Berlin's gaze settled on my face. His voice was unfamiliar, calm and distant. Yet like the spring rain, it seeped in gently and relentlessly. Tell me, Carmen. Chapter 06. Cold, pale skin. Jet black brows. A small brown mole at the corner of his eye. An overly sharp nose bridge, lips slightly thin. A white shirt, buttons fastened neatly all the way to the top. He looked at me, his expression almost gentle. Yet the instant he spoke my name, I felt as if I had fallen straight into an ice abyss. So this was retribution. My mother's sobbing drifted over in broken fragments. I snapped back to my senses. Taking a slow step forward, I gathered all my courage. My soaked fingers reached through the open window, and grabbed his immaculate sleeve. My voice trembled slightly. I can't come up with 100,000 yuan to compensate you, Berlin. 3 months, no, half a year. Is that okay? The driver standing outside stiffened almost instantly. He moved forward at once, trying to pull me away. But Berlin raised his hand slightly, stopping him. The driver hesitated for half a second, then tactfully stepped back and dispersed the onlookers. The surroundings suddenly fell silent, so silent that only the sound of our intertwined breathing remained. Can't pay it, he said. Then, work it off with your body. With my body? I stared at him in shock, instinctively trying to pull my hand back. But he lifted his hand and tightened his grip around my wrist. Berlin's gaze slid inch by inch from my face down to my fingertips. In the past, my 10 fingers had never known hardship, always adorned with manicured nails and delicate diamonds. But now, these hands were covered in wounds, nails cut short, blisters rubbed raw at the fingertips. He frowned slightly. You don't want to? Don't want to? I gradually became clear-headed. None of this was a coincidence. Even if I somehow produced 100,000 tonight, there would be 200,000, 2 million more debts waiting for me in the future. This was the karma I had created through my own ignorance in my youth. Now it was my turn to pay it back, there was no escape. But how many times does it count as repayment? He looked at me calmly. How many times do you think it should count? Chapter 07. I bit my lip, humiliated, thinking for a very, very long time. Vaguely, I remembered something John's friend had once said while drunk. He had slept with a clean college girl and paid her $20,000 for the first time. My eyelashes trembled. My voice was so soft it was almost inaudible. At 5 times, would that be okay? After saying it, I quickly glanced at Berlin. His brow seemed to knit even tighter. I suddenly let out a self-mocking smile. Of course. The first time might be worth $20,000, but the second time wouldn't be priced the same. Did I really still think I was worth anything now? If that's not acceptable, then you decide, I said softly. However many times you say, it'll be that many. The grip on my hand suddenly tightened, then abruptly loosened. Berlin coldly withdrew his gaze. Then 5 times. Starting tonight. But my mother. Berlin didn't look at me, but his voice carried no impatience. Someone will take care of her. Chapter 08. Berlin brought me back to the place he had newly purchased in the capital. When I came out after showering, he was standing on the terrace in a bathrobe, smoking. Hearing my footsteps, Berlin stubbed out the cigarette and turned around. Carmen. I didn't force you to come. I stood there with my wet hair loose for a long moment before replying softly. I agreed to it myself. Because John is getting engaged, were you acting out of spite? I looked at him blankly. What are you talking about? Berlin studied me for a while, then smiled faintly. Forget it. But my thoughts drifted. It seemed like I had vaguely heard that John was going to get engaged to Gardenia. Yet now, there wasn't even the slightest ripple left in my heart. When my father was on his deathbed, he had clutched John's hand tightly, refusing to let go. But even until his final breath, John never nodded to let him die in peace. At that moment, I had completely understood, and let everything go. Does it hurt? Berlin brushed aside the damp hair by my cheek and gently pinched my chin. I snapped back to reality and immediately shook my head hard. Berlin, he and I have already broken up. His matters have nothing to do with me anymore. Really? More real than real. I'm not that pathetic. Berlin suddenly lowered his head and kissed me. For a very brief second, I felt dizzy. If the scent of youth is the soap fragrance on a white shirt, then Berlin must be the one whose scent lingers the longest. Otherwise, how could it be that after 7 years, the scent on him was still so clean and crisp? Just like back then. Chapter 09. Carmen, hasn't anyone ever taught you to close your eyes when kissing? Berlin's dry palm covered my eyes. My vision fell into darkness. Yet in that darkness, his kiss grew hotter and deeper. When he lifted me and carried me back to the bedroom, my mind was still hazy, thinking, how ridiculous. No one really had ever taught me how to kiss. When Berlin entered me, I cried out in pain. He froze in shock. Carmen. Tears streamed from the corners of my eyes, soaking my hair at the temples. Yet I tried very hard to smile at him. See? You're not at a loss, are you? My vision blurred with tears. It must have been because of that, because I thought I saw pain he couldn't hide in his eyes. But don't delude yourself, Carmen. Think back to what you said to him back then, what you did. Even now, it's still shameful to remember. He's soaring high now. How could he ever truly let it go? Berlin. I lifted my slender leg, hooking it around his waist, enduring the pain as I urged him. Go on, otherwise it'll hurt again the second time. But he didn't continue. Instead, he traced the scars on my chest and asked softly. Does it hurt? It doesn't anymore. He touched them inch by inch, then took my hand again, kissing each fingertip one by one. What about here, does this hurt? My heart seemed to tremble slightly. In the dim, hazy light, I looked at him for a long time, then gently shook my head. Carmen, I'll be gentler. If it hurts, call me. Then will you stop? Berlin leaned down and placed a gentle kiss by my temple. I will. Chapter 10. On the day John and Gardenia got engaged, the weather finally cleared up. All of his friends were on high alert, guarding against the possibility that I might go crazy and storm in to cause trouble. When John came out after changing into his formal suit, he instinctively glanced toward the hotel entrance. "John, don't worry. We've arranged everything. Carmen won't be able to come and make a scene." "Yeah. There are at least 6 bodyguards stationed at every entrance. Carmen won't get in." "Good then." He glanced at the entrance again. "I'm going to check on Gardenia. Keep an eye out." "Don't worry, John." John turned around and pulled his phone out of his pocket. There were quite a few messages, but not a single one from Carmen. This time, she really seemed to have learned her lesson. And she was far more patient than before. He still remembered how, in the past, Carmen would swear she wouldn't bother him again, yet at most a week later, she would come back crying. But this time, it had been a full 15 days. The engagement ceremony was about to begin. John pulled his thoughts back and looked toward Gardenia walking over from afar. This engagement was a big affair, with media live streaming the whole event. Carmen must be watching the live stream right now too. As the moment to exchange rings approached, nothing happened. John began to feel restless, repeatedly glancing toward the entrance. 6 bodyguards stood outside, expressions stern, fully on guard. The scene suddenly felt a little ridiculous. He took the ring box and, under Gardenia's shy, expectant gaze, removed the ring. But just as he was about to place it on her finger, John couldn't help but look toward the entrance again. Still no sign of Carmen. Gardenia called out softly, a hint of grievance in her voice. "John." He snapped back to his senses and looked at her. Her fingers were pale and slender, adorned with beautifully done manicures. Yet for some reason, his mind suddenly drifted to Carmen's hands that day. She loved beauty so much, her hands had never looked that ugly before. But that was all her own doing. Who told her to cling on so shamelessly, refusing to let go? Still, if she had truly repented, if she behaved herself from now on and stopped disturbing him and Gardenia, he was willing to give her plenty of money, let her suffer a little less. As he was thinking this, a sudden commotion broke out outside. "Fuck, don't tell me that woman Carmen is here to crash the engagement. If she dares, I'll be the first one who won't let her off." Several friends below the stage started cracking their knuckles eagerly. Even John himself didn't notice that the corner of his lips had lifted slightly. "Alex, Tom, you two go take a look. If it's Carmen, throw her out for me. Listen carefully, don't give her any face at all." Chapter 11. John watched several of his friends head outside. The commotion outside grew louder and louder. The guests could no longer sit still and began craning their necks to look out. Gardenia felt an unexplainable sense of unease. She looked at John. The restlessness from earlier was gone from his face. In fact, his entire demeanor seemed to have settled, almost calm. A strange thought flickered through Gardenia's mind. Did John really hate Carmen that much? Why did it feel as though, deep down, he was actually hoping she would come and cause trouble? "John, should we exchange the rings first?" Gardenia reminded him softly. John glanced at her. His brows and eyes were still gentle, but he didn't nod. "Don't rush, Gardenia. Let's wait until whatever's happening outside is dealt with." "But I don't want there to be any imperfections in our engagement ceremony." Gardenia could only agree. "John." A friend hurried back, but the expression on his face was oddly complicated. "What is it? Did Carmen make too much of a scene?" The friend shook his head. "It's not Carmen. She didn't come." John's gaze darkened abruptly. The fingers that had been hanging loosely at his side suddenly clenched tight. "Then who's making a scene outside?" "It's Carmen's mother, Aunt Selina." John let out a breath of relief. He curled his lips in disdain. "Everyone knows Aunt Selina isn't mentally stable anymore. I think Carmen has really lost it, pushing her own mother out to take the heat for her. But then again, that's exactly the kind of thing she would do. John, maybe you should go take a look." The friend sighed softly, his emotions complicated. To be honest, they didn't like Carmen. After her family collapsed, they had rushed over without hesitation to kick her while she was down. But after knowing her for so many years, and considering that Carmen's mother had once been such a gentle, beautiful woman, seeing her now delirious and mentally unwell still made people feel a little wistful. It was as if John had been waiting for those words. He immediately put the ring back into the box. He didn't even remember to say a word to Gardenia before walking straight off the stage. Gardenia stood there in her beautiful gown, bouquet in hand. The smile on her face could no longer be maintained, gradually turning awkward and humiliated. She watched John stride away without even looking back. In the end, she couldn't hold her emotions in anymore, and, crying, she hurled the bouquet to the ground. Chapter 12. John, you're here. The woman stopped by the bodyguards looked as if she had deliberately tidied herself up. There was no trace of madness about her at all. When she saw John, she smiled at him gently. Aunt Selina, did Carmen ask you to come? John asked. Selina waved her hands repeatedly. No, John. Auntie saw on TV that you were getting engaged. So I came over by myself, very rudely, I know. John's attitude was fairly polite. I'm sorry, Auntie. That's my fault. I didn't send you an invitation. I know. You can't be blamed for that. Our Carmen has clung to you all these years, she must have caused you a lot of trouble. Selina looked at the young man in front of her. He was dressed in an expensive formal suit, about to marry the woman he loved. In this brief moment of clarity, she felt heartache for her daughter yet was powerless. Aunt Selina, what is it that you want to say? John frowned slightly. Everything that had happened today was completely different from what he had imagined. Carmen really hadn't come. But Carmen's mother had. John had assumed it was Carmen's doing. Sending a mentally unstable person to make a scene and ruin his engagement ceremony. Yet now, why did something still feel off? It's like this, John. Carmen once gave you a watch. That watch was a wedding gift I gave her father when we got married. Later, her father passed it on to Carmen, telling her to give it to her own husband someday so it could be handed down generation after generation. Carmen was young and foolish back then, and she gave it to you. But now that you're getting engaged to Gardenia, it's no longer appropriate for you to keep that watch. John, her father passed away so suddenly. He didn't leave much behind. Auntie wants to take that watch back, to keep it as a memento. John slowly lowered his gaze to his left wrist. That watch was still there, worn on his wrist even now. The day Carmen gave it to him, she had been smug and domineering. Forcing him to wear it every day, never allowed to take it off. Later, after they broke up, the watch should have been taken off and thrown away long ago. But he must have just gotten used to it. After all, he had worn it for 3 full years. Thinking this, John still felt an inexplicable hollowness in his chest. He took off the watch, under the woman's expectant gaze, but then withdrew his hand before passing it over. Auntie, it's not that I'm reluctant. It's just that Carmen gave me this watch. If you want it back, then have her come ask me for it herself. As he spoke, John put the watch back on his wrist. Auntie, you should go back now. I still have things to attend to here. John had already turned around and was striding back into the hall. Crying and shouting came from behind him. She must be having another episode. For no apparent reason, John felt irritated and restless. He waved over his assistant. Postpone the engagement ceremony. Take care of the guests. What? The assistant was shocked. John frowned impatiently. Just do as I say. I'll handle the elders. He tugged at his tie, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. It didn't go through, Carmen had blocked him. John let out a humorless laugh. He borrowed a friend's phone and called again. He was blocked there too. If he wasn't mistaken, Carmen had probably blocked everyone from their old social circle. John stopped a waiter and borrowed his phone. This time, the call finally went through. A moment later, the other side picked up. Chapter 13. I was lying lazily on the bed, so exhausted that I didn't even want to open my eyes. When my phone rang, Berlin was in the bathroom showering. I casually grabbed the phone and answered the call. I never expected John's voice to come through the receiver. I was a little startled and checked the time. Wasn't the engagement ceremony supposed to be happening right now? Carmen. John's voice was low, carrying an inexplicable irritation. You know I'm getting engaged to Gardenia today. So you deliberately sent your mother to make a scene, didn't you? My mom? My drowsiness vanished instantly. What happened to my mom? Where is she now? Still pretending, he sneered. She's not mentally stable right now. If you'd been watching her properly, would she have run over here by herself? Carmen, she's here right now, making a huge scene. My engagement ceremony has been ruined by her. On the phone, John let out a cold laugh. So tell me, Carmen, what do you think we should do about this? I'll come over right away, John. Please, considering how my mom used to treat you well, don't make things hard for her or hurt her, okay? I won't be disrespectful to an elder. But Carmen, you owe me an explanation for what happened today. All right. I'll come over right now. I'll give you an explanation. You know the location. John hung up immediately after saying that. I hurriedly opened a browser and searched online. But when I saw the hotel name appear in the news, I froze for a moment. The hotel where he and Gardenia were holding their engagement ceremony was the one I had mentioned to him countless times, my absolute favorite. But very quickly, I pulled my thoughts back. It had nothing to do with me anymore. Even if the two of them flew to Mars to get engaged, I would only calmly say congratulations. Chapter 14. After getting dressed, I grabbed my bag and phone and was about to head out. Berlin happened to come out of the bathroom. Seeing that I was leaving, his gaze darkened slightly. Carmen, where are you going? There's something going on with my mom. I need to go deal with it. I'll drive you. I glanced at his still wet hair. There's no time. I need to get there right away. I originally wanted to ask him, he had said last night that he would settle things for my mother. So why had she ended up running to John's place today? But on second thought, my mom was mentally unstable now. It really was hard to keep watch over her. Hadn't I failed to keep an eye on her myself, letting her cause trouble last night? My people were the ones taking care of your mom last night, Berlin said. If something happened, I share responsibility. He put down the towel. Give me 3 minutes. I'll get dressed. Hey, Berlin. I wanted to say I could just take a taxi, but he had already pulled off the bath towel and gone to get dressed. I stared blankly for a few seconds before snapping back to my senses and covering my eyes. I hadn't really looked at him at all last night. That sudden visual impact just now was pretty intense. Let's go. Berlin was dressed quickly and came over with the car keys. Your hair's still wet. It's fine. Let's go find your mom first. As he spoke, Berlin opened the door for me. I looked at his damp hair and subconsciously pressed my lips together. But maybe he was just feeling apologetic for not handling things properly through his people. Are you coming or not? Berlin looked at me. I hurried out of the room. Berlin drove fast but steadily. Aside from looking far more mature and composed now, his presence noticeably heavier, he hadn't changed all that much from before. Still not one for jokes, still focused and serious when doing things. Back then, when I was young and lively, I didn't like this type of bookish guy at all, someone who didn't know how to make people happy. John and his group didn't like him either. They always said he was putting on airs, fake and pretentious. Back then, my entire heart and eyes were filled with John. If John didn't like Berlin, I naturally hated him even more. Come to think of it, the one who bullied him the worst was foolish, stubborn me. Looking back now, even I feel like I must have been under some kind of spell. If I were Berlin, I wouldn't have been able to swallow that humiliation either, and I'd want revenge. Thinking this, I quietly made up my mind. No matter what he did to me during this period, I would endure it, go along with it, accept everything without resistance. I would treat it as atonement. Chapter 15. The car arrived outside the hotel. But just as I was about to get out, I stopped Berlin. I can go in by myself. I didn't want Berlin to get dragged into this mess. Even though he was no longer who he used to be, there was no need for him to make enemies with John and his circle again. After all, he was alone, while John had his family and a deeply entangled network behind him. Berlin lifted his eyes to look at me. Carmen, am I something to be ashamed of? That's not what I mean, Berlin. This has nothing to do with you. I just don't want you involved. Isn't it already too late not to be involved? Anyway, just listen to me this time, okay? We wouldn't have too deep an intersection in each other's lives. Once the debt was paid, we would each return to our own worlds with no further ties. If anything happens, call me immediately. Berlin didn't insist any further. I hurried out of the car. But I didn't know that the moment I closed the door, the man inside the car sank into a dark expression. And a moment later, he only let out a very faint, self-mocking smile. Chapter 16. When I went over, my mother was still crying and making a scene. The moment she saw me, she broke free from the people around her. Carmen, Mom just wanted to take back your father's watch. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I gently held her. I know. Mom is the best behaved right now. He wouldn't give it to me, so I cried. She clutched my hand, deeply aggrieved. That was clearly ours. Why wouldn't he give it back to me? All right. Sit here for a bit. I'll go talk to him. Okay. I'll be good. After calming my mother down, I finally looked at John. He was frowning, his expression dark and displeased. Actually, I could understand him well. The person he had longed for day and night was finally about to become his wife, only for his engagement ceremony to be ruined. John, I apologize on behalf of my mother. If necessary, I can also apologize to Gardenia. My tone was sincere, my attitude serious. No matter what, this incident was our fault. What's the point of apologizing, Carmen? My engagement ceremony was ruined by your mother. Do you know how long I've waited for this day? John's gaze stayed fixed on my face, not moving away for even a second. It was as if he didn't want to miss any subtle expression on my face. Then how do you want me to compensate you? I asked. Do you even have anything left to compensate me with? I had nothing to say. After a long while, I finally spoke again. Then how do you want to resolve this? Say it, and I'll do my best to make it happen. John looked down at me from above. Carmen. You schemed so carefully to ruin my engagement, and now you're putting on this act. Is it interesting? All these years, you've used every trick in the book. I tolerated it all. Now your family is in this state, what right do you still have to make trouble? John, I've already said this many times. We broke up. I apologize for the past. From now on, I will never appear in front of you and Gardenia again. You don't appear yourself, but you instigate your mother to come, what's the difference? I didn't instigate her. You think I'll believe you? If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. I really didn't want to waste any more breath. I'll take my mother home first. As for that watch, once you've decided how to handle it, please let me know. Carmen, do you have any shame at all? Our perfectly good engagement ceremony was ruined by you, and now you think you can just leave? There's no such cheap deal in this world. Several of John's friends crowded around. Each of them was indignant, furious. So what do you want? I asked. How about you kneel to Sister Gardenia? She's crying her eyes out right now. You can't even take out money to compensate for the losses. And John doesn't need that little bit of money anyway. I took a deep breath and looked at John. Is that acceptable? I'll apologize. Will the watch be returned to me immediately? John's expression darkened for no clear reason, but he didn't object. All right. I'll do it. I turned to the group. Please take me to Gardenia. Sister Gardenia is right here. Kneel here. Let everyone see it, only then will Sister Gardenia feel better. Gardenia's eyes were swollen from crying. She was supported by two close friends as she walked over. The moment she saw me, her emotions instantly wavered, tears streaming down again. I glanced at my mother, sitting obediently in the distance. I only hoped that she wouldn't see me at my most miserable. Can my mother leave first? I don't want her to see this. No. Let Aunt Selina be escorted out first. John agreed. Thank you. I truly was grateful to him. Gardenia. I looked at her. Gardenia, I apologize to you. But Gardenia spoke softly, weakly. Carmen, if you kneel to me, what will others think of me? How about you just bow and apologize instead? That's letting her off too easily. Exactly. After all the evil she's done, why are you still being so magnanimous, Sister Gardenia? I didn't want to waste any more time. I just wanted to end this farce as soon as possible and take my mother away. Gardenia, I apologize to you on behalf of my mother. I took a deep breath and slowly bent down. Carmen. For some reason, John suddenly flew into a rage, rushed forward, and grabbed me hard. Chapter 17. Do you have no dignity at all? Do you even want to stay in the capital anymore? I pushed his hand away and took a step back. Is this enough now, Carmen? Now, can you return my father's watch to me? I held out my hand to him, my gaze so calm it was almost lifeless. Yes, the capital had long since become a place I couldn't stay in. And I had never planned to stay anyway. Dignity, pride, none of that mattered anymore. Surviving was the hardest thing of all. John stared at my outstretched hand. The palm was mottled with scars, rough with calluses worn down over time. His eyes slowly reddened. His lips were pressed tightly together, stretched into a rigid line. So you've always been a liar, full of nothing but lies, is that it? I didn't quite understand what he meant. Mr. John. Back then, it was you who shamelessly clung to me and gave me this watch, he said. And you were the one who said that once I put it on, I was never allowed to take it off. And now you want it back again? What, do you think the whole world is supposed to revolve around you? The watch was expensive, but for John, he could casually buy 10 of them. There was no reason for him to keep something he despised. The real reason was simple, his resentment toward me ran too deep. He just wanted to make things difficult. John, if you're still angry about everything that happened over the years, I can apologize to you the same way I did just now. Carmen. John suddenly seemed to lose control. Can't you understand human language? Why is it that you get to say you love me, then say you don't, and that's it? What right do you have now to come and go freely in front of me? John, open your eyes and look clearly, I'm getting engaged to Gardenia. I'm going to marry her. When that day really comes, Carmen, it'll be too late for you to regret anything. But why would I regret it? Or was it him who couldn't understand human language? I had already given him up, completely and utterly. Not a push-and-pull game. Not a sulk born of grievance. But a genuine letting go, a letting go that would never turn back. John, you're overthinking it. I will only sincerely wish the two of you a lifetime of happiness together. John suddenly let out a cold laugh. He removed the watch from his wrist, loosened his grip, and the watch fell straight to the ground. Take your things and get lost. Carmen, don't let me ever see you again. All right. I crouched down and picked up the watch. The hands had stopped moving. I held the watch for a long moment before finally looking up at John. John. My voice was very low. But when I raised my hand and slapped him across the face, I used every bit of strength I had. My palm burned with pain. My whole body was shaking. John, Gardenia cried out in shock. The surroundings fell deathly silent. I let out a breath, smiled faintly, carefully put the watch away, and didn't linger for even a second longer. By the time I had walked far away, everything behind me was still silent. Was Carmen actually serious? I think so too, she really didn't look like she was acting. She had a lot of injuries on her hands. Come to think of it, she never really did anything unforgivable. She just loved John too much. Were we, a bit too much? Several friends instinctively looked toward John. And in his eyes, there was nothing left but an unbearable searing red. He touched his slightly swollen cheek, his gaze following Carmen's retreating figure the whole time. As if he were waiting for something. But when Carmen walked out through that door, the light in his eyes suddenly dimmed completely. Chapter 18. After taking my mother through the hospital's routine treatment procedures, she finally fell asleep quietly. Holding that watch, I thought that once she woke up, she would definitely want it back. So I planned to have it repaired. The moment I stepped out of the ward, I saw Berlin. He was sitting there, looking at something on his phone. Hearing the sound of me coming out, he stopped and looked up at me. I've already talked to the doctor. If your mother receives systematic treatment, her condition will gradually improve. I lowered my eyes. I know. But we can't afford that much money right now. I can help you with the money. I suddenly looked up. But Berlin, I don't have the ability to repay it at all. Since you already owe money, he said calmly. Owing 100,000 is owing 1 million is also owing. Berlin stood up and walked over to me. Let's go eat something first. That's not the same at all, okay? If I tried hard enough, I might still be able to pay back 100,000. But 1 million, I truly didn't dare to think about it. But Berlin, if I owe too much, I really won't be able to repay it. Then repay it slowly. No rush. But I was panicking inside. 5 times only covered 100,000. 1 million would mean 50 times. I didn't dare imagine having that many encounters with Berlin. There's no but, Carmen. Right now, I'm the creditor. Fine. I could only shut up. Berlin took me out to eat. Then he had something come up, so he asked the driver to take me to get the watch repaired. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination. But Berlin seemed to be in a bad mood, his attitude toward me noticeably colder. And over the next few days, we didn't see each other at all. My mother completed the admission procedures and began systematic intensive treatment. I didn't let myself idle either, continuing my previously hectic routine of part-time jobs. I only heard, by chance, that John and Gardenia's engagement ceremony had been postponed. As for when it would be rescheduled, no one knew. Berlin had gone back to City A these past few days. That was where he had built his career, nearly all of his business was based there. The capital had newer projects he was developing, which was why he had returned recently. The rundown house I had been renting before had been terminated by Berlin. These past few days, I had been staying at his residence in the capital. His social and personal circle seemed clean and simple. Because of that, I unexpectedly experienced the calmest, most peaceful stretch of time I'd had in months. I got off work from my part-time job at 11 at night. On the way back, I casually bought the cheapest sandwich to fill my stomach. So exhausted that the moment I entered, I threw myself onto the sofa. I didn't even notice that a floor lamp was lit in the room. Or that Berlin, carrying a hint of drunkenness, was leaning against a single armchair. By the time I realized something was off, Berlin had already unsteadily stood up and walked over to me. Carmen. He lightly nudged my dangling calf with his foot, his drunken eyes hazy as he looked at me. Don't you deserve to be punished? Punished for what? I was completely confused, staring at the man in front of me. Berlin bent down, and the faint scent of alcohol instantly surrounded me. Not a single call. Not a single message. Do you still remember that I'm your creditor? Berlin lightly kicked the hem of my skirt again. Carmen, tonight I'm going to give you a physical punishment. I was stunned. Physical punishment? What kind of punishment? From childhood to adulthood, that word had never applied to me. My parents doted on me, and school teachers certainly never did that. The only exception was those disgusting men I had encountered recently. For traditional Chinese parents, Berlin said slowly, there's only one way to discipline a disobedient bad child. He reached out and gently pinched my chin. He kissed me, light at first, then gradually deepening. When I was dizzy and short of breath from the kiss, he leisurely added, that way is called corporal punishment. Chapter 19. I was too stupid, I didn't understand the subtext of his words at all. I opened my mouth and blurted out. Berlin, you can't hit people. No matter how angry you are, you can't hit me. Idiot. Berlin suddenly laughed. It was rare to see him laugh so freely. Even when he was younger, he had always been the kind of person who was emotionally steady and rarely smiled. Now that we were both grown, he was even more mature and composed. I had almost never seen any obvious emotional fluctuation on his face. But now, his brows relaxed as he smiled. A faint glow spread softly in his eyes, an ease-filled, gentle warmth. I found myself staring, completely stunned. So this was what he looked like when he smiled. The only word I could think of to describe it was stunning. Berlin tugged at his tie and lowered his head to kiss me lightly. Carmen, you're a first-rate idiot. Yes, I'm very stupid. You don't need to keep reminding me over and over. I lowered my eyes, avoiding his gentle gaze. I didn't want to foolishly sink any deeper. But Berlin picked me up instead. Let's go to bed. I'll give you a proper lesson. Corporal punishment isn't just one thing. Carmen. The moment my body left the ground, I panicked and wrapped my arms tightly around his neck. His steps wobbled slightly. Berlin, don't drop me. Hey, you're really heavy, don't press on me. My hair, Berlin. After a chaotic struggle, Berlin grabbed my hands in the dim light and pinned them above my head. Carmen. What? When it hurts later, you're not allowed to cry. I'm still angry. I won't go easy on you. You're not allowed to hit me. MMH. I won't hit you. You'll like it. I really did like it. After all, it didn't hurt as much as that time before. And he seemed especially attentive to how I felt. By the end, he even forcefully made me wait for him, to finish together with him. Long after it was over, I was still curled up in his arms, too soft and weak to move. It was only then that my mind slowly caught up. So this was what he meant by corporal punishment? It was truly, unbearably embarrassing. Chapter 20. When I woke up the next morning, Berlin still hadn't left. Don't go to your part-time jobs for now. Why? Didn't you work at your father's company before? I laughed softly. I did, but what do you think I could actually do back then? My father just wanted to keep me occupied and doing something proper. After all, I was his only child. One day the family business was meant to be handed to me. I couldn't afford to know nothing at all. But now, everything was gone, so there was no point anymore. You can still handle basic daily work, can't you? That was true. After all, I had done a proper internship for 2 months back then. Come work by my side for now. Why? No reason. Consider it debt repayment. With that reason brought out, I naturally couldn't refuse. A debtor has no right to choose. Get ready. You'll come to work with me starting tomorrow. Seeing me sitting blankly on the bed with my hair in a mess, Berlin actually walked over and raised his hand to tuck my hair back. Carmen, there's something I need to make clear to you. What is it? No matter what, you're considered mine now. There was an inexplicable chill in Berlin's gaze. If someone bullies you, the one who loses face is me, Berlin. Remember that. I wasn't bullied. If humiliation and getting beaten don't count, then what does? My nose suddenly stung, and tears surged out instantly. So he knew. But what did that have to do with him? If I had been humiliated and beaten, he should have felt satisfied, that would have been normal. Even if someone's going to bully you, it can only be me. Berlin lowered his eyes and wiped away my tears. But my tears seemed endless, falling no matter what. In the end, he sighed helplessly. I only said a few words. Was it really enough to make you cry like this? I said nothing, my tears still falling non-stop. All right. I won't bully you anymore. Carmen, let's wipe the slate clean between us. He cupped my face, and a warm, damp kiss fell at the corner of my eye. Stop crying, okay? Chapter 21. Wipe the slate clean? I knew Berlin was a man of his word. If he said he would let the past go, then he truly could. But even if he could forgive and forget, I couldn't face my own conscience. Maybe for the rest of my life, I would never be able to forget. Back then, because of John, because I wanted to please him, I had broadcast Berlin's love letter over the school loudspeakers in front of all the teachers and students. And that love letter had been written under my coercion. The first time Berlin confessed to me, I rejected him. Later, egged on by John's friends, I deliberately sought Berlin out again. I told him that if he sincerely wrote me a love letter, I would consider agreeing to be with him. That love letter was basically dictated by me, written in Berlin's own hand. In it, I made him demean himself to the extreme. I even forced him to write the line, Carmen, as long as I can be with you, I'd be willing to be your dog. When that letter was read aloud over the broadcast, the teenage Berlin stood under countless strange, judging gazes, his face drained to a deathly white. And I, who had been laughing along with John and the others at first, gradually found myself unable to laugh at all. I still remember the last look Berlin gave me. There was no hatred in it. Only a vast, unbearable calm, like the depths of the sea. In truth, I had already regretted it back then. But that ridiculous pride of mine got in the way, and in the end, I never managed to say a single word of apology to him. Chapter 22. The night John and Gardenia broke up for good, several friends accompanied him to drink at a private club. After a few rounds of alcohol, someone suddenly blurted out, losing control. "Fuck, look what I just scrolled past. This is, that Berlin, right? That bookworm. The one who used to like Carmen." The phone was eventually passed to John. On the screen was an 8-second video. In the footage, a man in a black business suit, sharp-featured and cold-eyed. There were faint traces of his youthful self from years ago. Beside him stood a young woman dressed in a white suit. For John, even if she were reduced to ashes, he would still recognize her. The two looked like a boss and his subordinate. But when getting into the car, it was Berlin who shielded Carmen and let her get in first. No wonder Carmen was so tough this time. So she's got a new backer now. But, after how brutally she messed Berlin up back then for John's sake, isn't she afraid he'll take revenge? I heard Berlin's doing pretty damn well in City A. Then why did he come back to the capital? Don't tell me it's because of Carmen? With Carmen this broke now, Berlin playing her would be easy as hell. But in the video, it doesn't look like he's out to get revenge. What do you guys know? First give her some sweetness and hope, then destroy her and make her fall from the clouds. That kind of revenge is way more fun. Everyone talked over one another. Only John stayed silent the entire time. "John, what do you think? If Berlin really is planning to get revenge on Carmen, should we warn her?" John suddenly let out a cold laugh. He pushed the phone aside, his voice chilling. "What does it have to do with any of you? And what the hell does it have to do with me? If Berlin wants revenge, let him have it. Even if he kills her, it has nothing to do with me." "John, that's a bit much, isn't it?" "Yeah. Carmen used to be annoying, but now she really is kind of pitiful. I only found out recently, those disgusting lowlifes from Gardenia's family even had ideas about her, wanted to sleep with her. She resisted pretty fiercely back then and got beaten badly. She brought it on herself." John said that, but his eyes were slowly turning red. "She debased herself by attracting that trash. Why should I care?" And yet, deep down, he had been waiting for Carmen to come to him. To come ask for help. But she never did. She would rather turn to those beasts than come to him. John. Wasn't that her own fault? Just like now, she was stupid enough to jump straight into Berlin's trap. If she insisted on seeking her own destruction, what did it have to do with him? Obviously, as long as she had come back to him like before, admitted her mistakes, lowered her head. Even if he despised her, for the sake of all those years, he wouldn't have left her alone. But what he never expected was that this time, Carmen was truly that stubborn. Even when he and Gardenia got engaged, she hadn't reacted at all. That day, when she was forced to kneel and apologize, she hadn't even resisted. She had really knelt down. John felt the fire smoldering in his chest burn hotter and hotter. Maybe it was the alcohol. He could no longer sit still. He stood up and left the room. Chapter 23. I didn't expect that the next time I met John, we would be sitting so calmly at the same table. "Carmen, did you know that Berlin already has a fiancé back in City A, one chosen by his elders?" John's blunt opening caught me a little off guard. But thinking about it, he was 2 years older than me, and already successful in his career. It was perfectly normal for him to be at the stage of discussing marriage. "Judging by your expression, you were kept completely in the dark, weren't you?" "What are you trying to say?" "I think you can probably guess his purpose for coming to the capital." "Carmen, I'm a man, I understand men best. Take my advice and leave him as soon as possible." "So you think he's going to take revenge on me too, don't you?" John looked at me with a hint of pity. "Carmen, no man can forget humiliation like that." "I know." I looked at him calmly. I was outrageously wrong back then. So even if he does take revenge on me, I'll accept it. "Carmen. If there's nothing else, I need to go back to work." I stood up, ready to leave. But John suddenly grabbed my wrist. His expression was awkward. Carmen, we've known each other for so many years. Watching you jump into a pit of fire, I can't quite bring myself to do that. How about this? Let's get engaged according to our old arrangement. After all, only my family and I can protect you. And as for what you owe Berlin, we'll compensate him with money. I forcefully pulled my hand free. Do you really think he looks like someone who's short on money now? No one ever has too much money. And if he still isn't satisfied, I can even have people make concessions to him in capital city business. John, why are you doing this? You hate me so much, shouldn't you be happiest seeing me as miserable as possible? And if you get engaged to me, what about your gardenia? It was truly laughable. The person I once loved desperately, we broke up just like that. The person I once despised to the point of wishing him dead, now wanted to marry me. I really didn't understand, nor did I want to understand men like this. I've already broken up with her. Carmen, I'm completely done with her. John's gaze burned intensely. Do you want to consider what I just proposed? I didn't answer. I simply picked up the glass of water in front of me and splashed it directly onto his face. Chapter 24. John, I don't recycle trash. Carmen, you've always been this stupid and stubborn. John wiped the water from his face, anger flashing in his eyes. Do you really have to smash yourself to pieces before you regret it? What does it have to do with you? Carmen, you loved me for 7 years. You chased me for 7 years. I know exactly what you want. I'm willing to marry you now. I smiled very lightly and cut him off. John, if you could turn time back to the moment my father took his last breath and then say those words to me, I might have considered it. But you can't. So there is absolutely no possibility between us. Carmen. John tried to grab me. But I dodged him once again. You like Berlin, don't you? John gave a bleak smile. I saw it that day. You and Berlin attending the banquet together. The way you looked at him. It was exactly the same as the way you used to look at me. You're wrong. I raised my brow slightly at him. It wouldn't be exactly the same. Because a woman will always have somewhat unusual feelings toward her first man. What did you say? John froze. But I didn't bother responding. I turned and strode out of the cafe. There was still an hour left before I got off work. Berlin should be busy right now. But I had questions I wanted to ask him. Chapter 25. Secretary Carmen, you're finally back. The boss was looking for you just now. They heard you weren't here, said you went out to meet a friend. He even asked what kind of friend. He didn't look very happy. Secretary Carmen, you'd better be careful when you go in later. I was a little surprised. I hadn't expected that in the half hour I'd been out, Berlin would happen to look for me. He had clearly been in a meeting earlier. All right, thank you. I'll go over now. I took a deep breath, smoothed the slightly wrinkled hem of my skirt, and hurried to Berlin's office. After knocking and going in, the man didn't even look up, continuing to handle his work. I stood there for a full half hour, my feet starting to ache. Boss, were you looking for me? Berlin's hand paused slightly. He lifted his eyes and glanced at me, then lowered his head again and went back to work. Berlin, if you don't actually need anything, then I have something I want to ask you. At that, Berlin finally put down the pen in his hand. He leaned back against the chair, looking at me with an indifferent expression. What is it? Do you already have a fiancé? I didn't want to beat around the bush. After all, being a mistress and repaying a debt to a single creditor were two completely different things. Who did you hear that from? I choked slightly. Before I could answer, Berlin suddenly let out a cold laugh. What, your ex-fiancé cheated and found himself a new fiancé, so now he wants to splash some dirty water on me too? I was a little stunned. It took me a moment to sort out what he meant. So, you don't have a fiancé? No. Berlin's gaze grew even colder. Carmen, I don't have that much energy to spend on women. Besides, just dealing with you already costs me enough mental effort. I don't want to add more trouble for myself. How exactly do I cost you so much effort? Berlin looked at me for a long while before slowly saying a single word. You're dumb. Berlin. I stomped my foot in anger. Why are you rushing? I'm not finished yet. A hint of amusement gradually appeared in Berlin's eyes. And besides, corporal punishment is already exhausting enough with just you. Then why isn't it because you're the one who's not up to it? The moment the words left my mouth, I immediately regretted them. But it was clearly already too late. I'm not up to it. Berlin tugged at his tie, stood up, grabbed my wrist, and pulled me straight into his arms. Carmen, you'd better not end up crying and begging me. He pinched my jaw and kissed me fiercely. And tonight, in bed, you're going to write me a love letter. I tell you how to write it, you write it exactly that way. I felt a little wronged. Is it going to be read aloud at a company meeting? Berlin was speechless. If you think that level of content won't affect your reputation, then sure. What level? I asked, a little confused. After all, back then, all I'd done was force him to write a lot of extremely simpy love lines. Carmen likes Berlin. Carmen likes having sex with Berlin. Carmen wants to have sex with Berlin every night. Carmen also wants to have sex with Berlin in the office, in the study. Berlin, you're insane. I panicked and raised my hand to cover his mouth. But Berlin kissed my fingertips instead. Then are you going to write it, or do it? I stood there dazed, thinking for a long time. Writing it out would be unbearably embarrassing. And since doing it was going to happen anyway, then naturally, doing it was better. Do it, then. All right. Then we'll start doing it from the fourth sentence. A faint smile spilled from the corner of Berlin's lips. Carmen, kiss me. As I slowly lowered my head and kissed his lips, Berlin murmured softly. Carmen, I forgive you. I still like you. I like you even more than I did 7 years ago. Berlin. Carmen, don't say anything. When the day comes that what you want to say is something I want to hear, then tell me. I gently shook my head, looking at him with a bit of stubborn resolve. Berlin, this is something I have to say. I'm sorry for the stupid hurtful things Carmen did to you 7 years ago. I never blamed you. I know. But all these years, whenever I thought of you, I felt regret. My eyes stung slightly. Berlin, I also want to thank you. No need to thank me, Carmen. Just like me, that's enough. I couldn't help smiling, yet my tears still fell. He pulled me into his arms and very gently kissed away my tears. If you truly don't like me, then at least, don't hate me. Berlin, I think I do like you. You're my first man. And you're really good looking, completely my type. Anything else? He asked. Your body's great too. Being with you feels very comfortable. Berlin chuckled. That works too. Falling in love through sex isn't bad. It's not only falling in love through sex. I muttered softly, then bit his thin lip lightly. Real liking is actually biological. Sometimes the body is more honest than the brain. You're not wrong. Berlin rested his forehead against mine. You've flattered me quite well, but mistakes still need to be punished. What mistake did I make? Meeting your ex behind your current partner's back. He'd been harassing me for a long time. I just wanted to make things completely clear with him. Still deserves punishment. Berlin pinched my chin and kissed me coaxingly. Just tonight. Corporal punishment. Not again. You owe me stick-based discipline. I was kissed so comfortably that I couldn't help letting out a soft hum. Then it can only be once. Who are you underestimating? Berlin said, rare teasing in his tone. I laughed, completely amused. You're the one who said you were tired. Berlin looked at me, the smile in his eyes spreading gently. So what? I enjoy it willingly.